U.S. intelligence officials continue to defend the National Security Agency's current surveillance practices.
We only spy for valid foreign intelligence purposes as authorized by law.
The NSA denies reports of NSA surveillance of millions of telephone calls in France and Spain, calling the stories completely false. But a Spanish newspaper reports the NSA collected data on 60 million phone calls in Spain over a 30-day period. Meantime, in Washington this week, the head of the European Union delegation says citizens there find the practice disturbing.
They feel very uneasy. They don't know why it's happening, why our strongest ally is doing it.
At an NSA surveillance hearing on Tuesday, protesters were forced to leave.
Will we apologize to Angela Merkel?
Today, the White House will only confirm the NSA is reviewing its surveillance and intelligence gathering and may make changes.
Our review is looking across the board at our intelligence gathering to ensure that as we gather intelligence, we are properly accounting for both the security of our citizens and our allies and the privacy concerns shared by Americans and citizens around the world.
I'm Gail Hoff, WGBH News.
Well, my next guest has unique insight into the delicate diplomatic situation facing the United States. Alan Solomont is the former U.S. ambassador to Spain, and he hosted a private fundraiser for the president last night at his home in Weston. Welcome back, Alan Solomont.
Thank you, Emily. It's wonderful to be here.
So, trick-or-treaters tonight, the president last night. What's that like?
We didn't serve candy.
What's it like?
It was a great day for Boston yesterday. Yeah. The President of the United States visited, and then the Red Sox won the World Series. I was only a little disappointed that I couldn't attend the game because I still had some guests at the house, although, you know, the president left and got out of
into him. On the Mass Pike, which they shut down the Mass Pike. So.
He left because he didn't want to interfere with the game or delay it.
That was nice.
But it was very exciting to host the president. And, you know, when my wife Susan and I came back from Spain, this was not exactly what we were planning to do. But when Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi called us and asked us to do this, I recalled that we were in Madrid visiting friends several weeks ago during the budget and debt ceiling fiasco. And our friends in Spain were scratching their heads and asking, what's going on in your country? And not just curious about it, but business people who own businesses that are investing in the United States, creating jobs here, were really getting kind of skittish about the political gridlock. And I believe the only way we're going to end that is if we win a Democratic majority in the House, frankly. And so when Leader Pelosi asked us if we would host this, we said yes.
So going to what happened in the last few days with the NSA spying, tapping, people are saying now that the Spanish government was in on it, that they knew about it. It's all part of kind of everyday ho-hum surveillance. Do you believe that?
Well, we have to keep in mind a couple of things. First of all, the threats that we face today, American citizens and Spanish citizens, are different from the threats that we faced when I was growing up in the Cold War. Typically, our enemies today are non-state actors. They're fanatics. They're willing to use violence against civilians. And small numbers of people, even individuals, can do great damage with access to weaponry or explosives, which they can learn about on the Internet. So the question is, how do we protect ourselves? How do we keep our citizens safe and secure from that kind of threat? And one of the ways we do it is by gathering intelligence. And since telecommunications today is the vehicle by which some of these terrorists do business, that's where we try to collect information in order to thwart these threats.
I guess, though, when you see people saying, denying it, this is absolutely false, we know it's not false. We know it's true. So, and if there was a collaboration, why not just admit it?
Well, first of all, I think that the NSA, our NSA director who just testified before Congress, admitted on Gail Huff's piece that we do that. And I don't think our government has ever denied that. I think there is less awareness among our friends in Europe that we do this and that we do this out of necessity. And in fact, our allies in Europe depend upon our intelligence gathering capability in order to protect their citizens, but they may be less transparent with their citizens than we are. So I know, for example, my successor in Madrid has been called before the foreign minister and to explain what exactly is going on. The fact of the matter is the Spanish government and the United States government cooperate around intelligence gathering in order to protect both of our countries. And the reports in the news media in Spain may not be entirely accurate in the sense that the United States intercepted 60 million phone calls. In fact, Spain has its own intelligence gathering capability, and they may have actually collected some of the data but asked us to cooperate with them in interpreting it.
Alan, you were also in Spain during, they had their own, maybe not a debt ceiling crisis, but it was very close to, I mean, they had a very severe economic crisis there. What was it like for you as ambassador? Just, you know, I'm sure you were not necessarily a financial and economic consultant, but helping them cope.
No, that was actually part of our job, was to be supportive as Spain tries to dig out of the worst economic crisis that they've experienced, and the worst crisis they've experienced since the transition to democracy. First of all, we kept trying to remind our friends there that Spain is a great success story. They went through a brutal civil war, 40 years of military dictatorship, and in about 35 years created a vibrant democracy and a prosperous economy. So part of our objective was to reflect back some of the positive things. But they are going through a very serious economic crisis. We went through our own, so our message was, we've been through this. We've been through banking crises. We've been through an economic crisis. And governments need to take decisive action, often that is politically unpopular. And that's what we encourage you to do. And as they have taken those measures, we've tried to express support for that.
Alan, what would your advice be to Caroline Kennedy, who's heading off to be ambassador to Japan now?
First of all, I would tell her that she's about to have the greatest job imaginable and the greatest opportunity to have an impact every day on things that are really important in a relationship with a key ally. I would tell her to work hard. I would tell her to get out of Tokyo and be visible all over the country. I would tell her to speak to all audiences, not just government officials or business people, but to talk to young people, to minority communities, to use social media. And I would tell her to have fun. And I would tell her to do it with her family. One of the best parts of my experience was doing it in partnership with my wife, Susan. She was both a force multiplier, but also a full partner in our diplomatic efforts in Spain.
But you admitted to me a second ago that spouses are often kind of marginalized in these roles.
The culture of our State Department and the tradition of our Foreign Service is to marginalize spouses, but we worked hard.
Men and women.
Men and women. And so I would give Ed Schlossberg the same advice. Caroline Kennedy is going to do a great job representing the President and representing our country, and we should be very proud that we have that quality of diplomat going to Japan.
And speaking, you too, great
Thank
quality.
You. Thank you, Emily.
Alan Solomont, great to have you back.
Nice to be here.